Hello, hello, JJ DiGeronimo here. Another exciting week, amazing conversations. I get so inspired by these conversations because it really shows me that we all have different journeys, but each of the lessons we pick up and the insights can guide others on their journey. And I am very excited to introduce Laura Gray to you today. She and I connected through mutual connections, and we have found our way to each other, and her story is extraordinary. So, Laura, thank you so much for joining me.
Wow, thank you. Thank you. So happy to be here on this beautiful day.
Oh, it's beautiful. It is beautiful. And we decided to talk about the inner whispers. You have so much to talk about, but we boiled it down to the inner whispers. So I think a good place to start would be like, what are inner whispers and why were they important to you?
Yeah, great question. So, inner whispers, and sometimes for me, they're actually nudges. It reminds me back in the day where you're sitting next to maybe your mother in church and you got the old elbow. So occasionally some of these whispers can be quite loud. And I think, I also refer to them as downloads. Um, and I believe that we're all able to receive these. It's a matter of being still, um, honoring what may be flowing through you, and actually just kind of believing it that this could be real. These are real thoughts, energies, intuition, inner whispers that are from your higher self, just to keep you aligned with life and love.
I love that. I can feel that right now. And I just want to sit in that energy because it's so amazing.
Yeah. It's
And
so powerful. Yeah, like for me, you know, uh my early years, between the ages of 3 and 6, I was nobody likes to use this word, but I was raped, repeatedly raped by a friend of the family who happened to be a Catholic priest. So I think that many of my inner whispers were silenced for so long, and by the time, I was 32, I didn't tell anybody about my trauma until I was 32 years old because, you know, he was a grown man and well respected. And every time for, age 3, 4, 5, and 6, he told me that he would kill me and my mother and that no one would believe me. So if you hear those repeatedly while you're being traumatized, you're going to believe that. And so because of that trauma and fear, those inner whispers, there's no way they had any room to grow or flow through my mind. So when I was 32 years old, I found the courage. I had a son, and at that point, the maternal part of me kicked in, and I found the courage and my voice to share. And I think once, that first person believed me, it was a big exhale. It was a huge exhale. But by starting the flow through my chakras, um, really kind of opened up and engaged all that inner light and wisdom that I had been suppressing due to fear and trauma. And once I found my voice and allowed my voice through courage to start speaking my truth, sharing my story, the whispers, it was like, welcome back, welcome back. And it just began to flow. And part of it, like I say, is really about stillness. So I live on my own. I do not own a TV. I have not seen anything on a TV. People are like, "Yeah, I don't watch the news either." I go, "No, no, no, no. I don't even know. I don't even know because I focus on love, light, joy in the world, bringing joy to the world. That's my lane. That's my jam. That's my frequency." And so I've shared my story. I have a self-esteem program for children called I Pride. It is not geared, I've had it for 10 years. It is not geared towards youth and trauma, it's geared towards all youth because I think they can all benefit from the messaging, which is, meditation, mindfulness, creative expression, judgment free listening, presentation skills. So just all of that. And it's workshop based, and I'm very proud of it. So it's been a journey, but you know what? I'm proud of what I've worked through, and it is work. It is work, but there's also joy in the work. There's joy in the journey. There's expansion, and sometimes with expansion and growth comes a little pain. Comes a little pain. But I'm somebody who's never thought, well, they're like, wow, you overcame so much. And I'm like, well, I got a little news flash. I didn't overcome anything because I always think of that Pac-Man game. I don't know, that definitely dating me, even though I didn't play video games. But you jump over it, and it's like it's coming back on the next level. So I never wanted to overcome. I knew I just had to keep working and working through. And it's not been easy, you know what? But whose life has been? But there's been immense growth. There's been incredible support and friendship and love. And yeah, I encountered a number of me too's along the way, and I embrace them. We don't compare pain because for me, pain is pain, just like love is love. And so, as part of my journey with my inner whispers, which are all the time now and often because I do sit in stillness, I'm a writer, and things just flow through me where, I'm like, hey, JJ, I don't know why I'm reaching out to you right now, but I just got this download for you. And many of my very close circle of friends are well aware, and they trust that. They're like, okay, thanks for letting me know, you know, and, I'm just like, do with it what you will. I just needed to share this message for you. And I just feel that in my heart. I just feel the wings that are on those messages.
You just have so much emotion right now. The journey, and the illumination you have right now is undeniable. So you truly have done the work. I guess, how did you even know where to start or what to do once you first sort of allowed that sort of gate to open? Did
Mm.
the journey come through you? Were you sort of guided, or did you have to take a first step to sort of really work to this level of illumination that we can all see on the video? But
Yeah,
can you describe a little bit for somebody who might be like ready to open the gate or has opened the
yeah,
gate but now is still sitting there?
yeah, for sure. For me, in my case, opening the gate meant opening my mouth. It meant opening my mouth and speaking my truth and sharing my story and standing in my truth, and not blaming myself, not shaming myself, and not blaming others, because that holds you in that dark space. And I wanted to release it all. I mean, that was a number of years ago when I first spoke my truth. And for me, I always clarify, like, well, you might believe what you believe. I can only share my truth and what I believe. I believe, people would be like, oh, well, now you're on the right path. And I'm like, well, you only get one. You only get one. Sometimes we venture over a little bit that way or that way, but it's one path. It's one journey for this time around. And so, it's like I feel like with what I went through, and sure, I've had other things I've gone through since unrelated, but you know what, you go through, and I feel like there's been times when I've hiked and I got to a peak or the top, and it's kind of like you bend over and you go, oh, you just take a deep breath, and you're like, you're proud of yourself. You're proud of yourself. And I think something in addition to being proud of yourself, which is a good thing, is loving yourself. And I remember this distinctly. This was a number of years ago, and I was volunteering every Monday night in a juvenile detention center nearby. And I'd go and spend time with the kids and everything. somebody asked me prior to me going one night, they're saying, this is so awesome, blah, blah, blah. And then they're like, do you love yourself? And I responded, well, yeah, I think I'm a good person. And she said that there's a difference. And that set me further inward, because to me, the journey inward is infinite, because everything is about the journey. I mean, if you think there's a destination, I don't know. I just keep going. It's like that it just that evolving escalator. And I'm going up. And sometimes you get off at that floor and go, well, this is not where I wanted to go, and you head back up. But to me, it's like the journey inward is infinite. And so when she said, well, there's a difference, and I thought, oh my gosh, you're right. I had been surfacey with, I'm a good person. I do this and I do this for people and I volunteer this. And I wasn't fully looking inward and in the mirror. And that really got me going further and further, because the wounds from my trauma were so incredibly deep and dark for many reasons. Obviously, but that was like 10 years ago, and I was like, woof, so here we go. And, now I'm just like, I have a huge crush on myself. In fact, I've been in a long-term relationship with myself. So, I think tonight we might go for a walk. I don't know. So, yeah, I just embrace it. And yeah, I feel pretty good.
Well, I feel good listening to you, but I know the work. I mean, eh, people sometimes ask, like, well, how long is it going to take? Or what are the exact steps? And I feel like, the teacher arrives when the student is ready. And I feel like that woman at that point in your life was there to show you, like, you've done a great job, but there's more levels.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so, what type of intuitive practices have you used to sort of reclaim your light?
Well, that's a great point. First of all, and I view many people throughout my journey have been lighthouses, and they have uh, been a beacon when I needed whatever I needed, that they showed up. So that's all part of the intuitive journey as well, being open to that and receiving the message. My practice, so I've always been a writer. I mean, since I was a small child, writing actually was my therapy, going through the trauma, because I didn't tell anybody for 26 years. Well, 29 if you count the years of abuse. But yeah, I would say writing, learning more to meditate, sit in stillness. There's a Shambhala Center in Cleveland, which I have become a frequent visitor, and I was not familiar with. So, people that you encounter will light the way. Somebody said to me, "Hey, have you ever heard of the Shambhala Center?" I'm like, "No, but thanks for letting me know." And so I checked it out, because I feel like if the universe is going to present messages and signs, it's always our choice. It's always our choice. And to use our discernment, what our next steps will be.
That's beautiful. And through the practices and all the podcasts and the work that I've done, I feel like there's these pillars of conscious awakening. And I do feel like one of the last pillars is illuminating the path for others. And even in my
Yeah.
book Seeking, I say be a lighthouse for others, because I feel like the conversations I'm having here is really an opportunity for people to lean in, even if they're fearful, even if they are doubting themselves, even if the people around them are saying you're not good enough or don't do it. I hope that these conversations share the light and love that is possible
Yeah.
if you lean into the work and if you lean into the messages and intuitive nudges that are coming your way.
Absolutely. And for me, like, two things on that. So fear is an opportunity to explore and expand. And I have found that if I'm feeling a little fear or insecurity about, that means that's absolutely what I need to do. And then the other thing is, you're talking about, your book Seeking and the Lighthouse. A number of years ago, one of my whispers, I've had so many. One of the biggest one was my children's book, but one of the whispers was the word Seba came into my mind. And I'm like, I mean, I saw it, I heard it, I felt it. And I'm like, I don't know what that means. And this was probably 10, 15 years ago. So, what do? I look it up. And Seva means to serve others selflessly without expecting anything in return. So, I've since a friend made me a bracelet that says Seva. I'm a sister of Seva. And I just embrace everything about that word. And that's like the frequency I choose to live on.
Such an inspiration. I feel so inspired by your journey, but I also feel so wonderful that I can share it with others because I feel like the journey that so many lean into and share, and especially so boldly when it's tough. I mean, it's hard to even process. It still is a beacon of light for so many, and you've written a beautiful book, Swinging on the Silver Star in the Royal Purple Sky.
Yeah,
Did I say
thank
that?
you. Yeah. Yeah, the swing on it's a tongue twister for sure. The swing on the silver star in the royal purple sky. And it's the adventures of the little girl seeking her lost inner light. That was a download. The entire book was a download to me. I went to bed December 29th, 2022, and I started coloring. So I have a box of 64 on my nightstand. I colored, signed my name to the masterpiece. And then as I fell asleep, I decided to ask, which I had never done before. I pray a lot in gratitude. And for the first time, I think ever, I asked to be reconnected to my inner child and my sense of wonder because all of that was shattered as a child because of the number of years of trauma I had. So I asked for that and I was kind of awakened during the night. I had a pen and journal next to my bed, and it was like it just started coming, and it just started coming, and I never lifted my pen. The title of the book was how I started, and it just flowed. And when I finished that book, I exhaled and I started to cry in gratitude because I knew that I was reconnected. It was kind of like when your phone's not fully being charged and you're like trying to look at the charger and looking at the phone, and then you get it and you're like, oh, good, going to be recharged. It's all good. That's how I felt. I felt reconnected to my inner child and that this was a gift. Reached out to a few people and, this amazing illustrator in rural Canada, I got connected to her, which that almost doesn't make sense either, but it makes perfect sense and it was well received. I did book signings throughout the state and was voted best top 15 in Cleveland for the summer of 2023 and other awards. And it's like the story of me, the little girl seeking her lost inner light. And at the end of the book, she's in her own backyard and puts her hand on her heart because the sky turns a royal purple, the color of a queen's velvet coat. And she sees this most amazing star and she holds her heart, realizing everything she needs, she has. Everything she needs, she has. And that was God and the universe's response to me. You've never been disconnected. You've never been disconnected from her. She's always there. Your heart, who you are as you came into this earthly plane, she's there waiting for you. So it was it's really kind of a magical book, and it's being used by some therapists throughout the Cleveland area as well with some children.
It is so beautiful. Your journey is so beautiful. And I just continue to see your work helping other people find their voice, use their voice, and break through the
Yeah,
energy, the darkness
yeah.
into the light.
I would agree. Thank you for that. Yeah, I was
Mm.
actually invited last December to testify in front of the Ohio Senate Judiciary Committee regarding a House bill to protect all children. And I was so honored to be a part of that, and it unanimously passed. So I didn't see justice individually, but I was part of something much, much greater. And I felt so fortunate for that opportunity.
Oh, I'm sure people are going to connect with you energetically and your vibration and definitely your light. Your links are below, but what are you up to that people can connect with you or how do they reach out to you? What's the best way people can reach out to you if
Um,
this really connects with them?
yeah, absolutely. Well, social media for sure, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, those are just kind of, I want to say, like the obvious. I would ask if you do reach out, if you reference JJ and this podcast, because I think my pages are not public. But anyways, that would be great. I'd love to connect and have a conversation.
I love that. I'm so honored that our worlds connected and that we have this space here to just share the light that is illuminating off you. It's just absolutely incredible. And I'm so honored to know you. And I look forward to working with you in some capacity in the future. But
Yeah,
right now, I
for
just
sure.
really honor like just this space with you. So thank you, Laura, so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for the invitation.
And for those of you listening, I really just appreciate you making this time for yourself and listening to journeys and conversations that might resonate with you in a way that you don't expect. And I encourage you to lean into what is calling you. Find that inner whisper, lean into that nudge. These are no accidents. And the fact that you are with us here right now is also a really wonderful sign that you are on a beautiful journey. So, with that, we look forward to seeing you here next week. Thank you again, Laura, and we look forward to connecting in person.
For sure. Thank you so much.
Thank you.